So almost all real estate transactions include some sort of financing. One of the unique pieces of financing we deal with more often in the probate world and trust world are reverse mortgages. We're excited to have an expert on the topic. I was talking to recently, Chris Downey, about the unique advantage that reverse mortgages play as a tool for people in their planning process, as well as what it takes to work in the field with trusts as far as title and documents and such. Chris, thanks for making time with us today.
Happy to do it, and thanks for having me, Bill.
Now, you're based in Boston. I detect a little bit of an accent. I recognize that. My wife's from the Boston area. Do you do business nationally, or what states do you do business in or don't do?
Good question. Thank you. So won't make any car jokes, but we now, through the Federal Savings Bank, have the capability to lend in all 50 states.
Great. And recently your firm was acquired by the Federal Savings Bank. So congratulations on the acquisition.
Thank you.
Let's talk about reverse mortgages. Can you give us a quick overview of it? And then what are the most common use cases that people get a new reverse mortgage?
So the most common use and the ideal use for a reverse mortgage is effectively a safe way for a senior in retirement years to tap into the equity in their home as kind of a third leg to a financial stool. And what I mean by that is most people go into retirement with two basic types of savings. Their traditional investment accounts, what I'll refer to as non-qualified accounts, brokerage accounts, securities, and whatnot. Then qualified retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, SEP IRAs, and the like. And the third component for a lot of people, in terms of the size of the asset, is their home equity. And until reverse mortgages were available, there wasn't a safe way to be able to tap into that equity. And so back in 1988, Ronald Reagan actually signed the bill into law that created reverse mortgages, specifically the FHA HECM reverse mortgage programs. There are others available too. And, that product has been available. It's been improved dramatically as well. Not everyone should have a reverse mortgage. And there are a lot of qualifiers involved. But the product is now very robust and at least should be a consideration for some people that are questioning how long their traditional retirement assets are going to last them.
Yeah, and I think now when they first came out, I've been on long enough, actually originated some myself at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They were somewhat controversial because I do think they were a very powerful tool that were abused. And the most common case was somebody would issue a reverse mortgage, take the money, buy an investment program that had a huge commission, pocket the commission, and now you have a equity in a non-performing asset and the salesperson was gone. So what are some of the protections to protect homeowners from those practices, or are there any? It's something they should be concerned about still.
Yeah, so a very astute observation, and we're dealing with a very protected class. And while there are all kinds of regulations and laws in place to, in theory, protect that, it arguably boils down to the individual issuing the product. And to that end, again, we have now laws and regulations in place to help prevent somebody from using a reverse mortgage at the hands of an unscrupulous, let's say, financial advisor to then use those proceeds to go invest monies. And that typically doesn't make sense, too much sense at any age, never mind someone in retirement age. There are also some advantages to not using the monies available in a reverse mortgage line of credit because of growth features within the line of credit itself too.
One of the use cases I've been involved with is somebody inherits a property they've never owned before, and they want, how do they borrow against it? If there's a mortgage that has to be paid off, or they have to pay off a family member, maybe they're entitled to half or a third of the property. What's the minimum age to qualify for a reverse mortgage?
That will vary a little bit now. assume it is age 62, but there are some products in some states that will allow slightly younger ages, like 60 years of age, to get into certain reverse mortgage products. And some of that depends not only on the product, but regulations in that particular state as well.
And then, so typically that's going to be for a loan to value of about, at the low end of the age, maybe 50% or below. What kind of a loan to value?
Below. So yeah, that's a very pertinent topic right now, because there are three variables that determine how much you're going to be eligible for in a reverse mortgage. They are, number one, your age. The older you are, the more you'll be eligible for. Number two, the property value. Within certain limitations, the more the property, higher the property value, the more you're going to be eligible for. And last is interest rates. The higher interest rates are, the less you are going to be eligible for. So now, with rates at the levels that they're at, the PLFs, which stands for principal limit factor, is simply the formula that determines how much you're eligible for. Compared to, let's say, 24, 36 months ago, you might have been, let's say, at age 65 eligible previously for 50% or more of the value of the property. That figure right now is probably in the 30% range.
Wow, it's that dramatic.
For someone that young, correct.
Okay. And so that's because by not making payments on the mortgage, the balance is going to go up. Their life expectancy might be 20 years, 30 years. And with higher interest rates, that's going to add to the value of the loan balance and needing the equity that much faster. So still they can get 30% loan to value, but they can't get the 50%. But still, it's a tool to look at. And in many cases, the amount of money they owe is small, maybe just attorney's fees and some minor fees for the estate, and they can end up, getting reverse mortgage and end up, with no payment and owning a property that they otherwise couldn't afford. The other use case I get involved with is people will inherit a chunk of money and then want to buy a house somewhere else. And so really they're purchasing a property with a reverse mortgage. They have maybe a chunk of $300,000-$400,000 or more, and they're elderly, and so they can afford, or they may be older than that, 70s, where they can get a 40-50% loan to value, and they have the cash from the inheritance, and now they have no mortgage payment. How does a purchase reverse mortgage work? And what's the timetable from application to completion? Because we have competitive escrow situations.
Yeah, some great questions. So if you are using a reverse mortgage for purchase on a principal residence, the reverse mortgage itself can be secured to the property. Across the board, any reverse mortgage product available in the marketplace right now needs to be secured to a property that's going to be used as a primary residence, not a second home, certainly not an investment property. Recently, we closed a transaction where a resident of the Boston area was buying a second home in Arizona, and they put a reverse mortgage on their primary residence here to withdraw funds in conjunction with additional cash that they supplied, and financed it that way so that they would not have a mortgage payment. Had that property been a primary residence, they would have been able to get a reverse mortgage on that. But again, you can only have effectively then one reverse mortgage at a time. You really can't use a reverse mortgage as a bridge loan per se. And you wouldn't want to, because typically the closing costs involved in a reverse mortgage are too expensive to utilize it as a tool like that anyway.
Can a family who maybe lives in Boston, New York, with substantial equity use reverse mortgage proceeds to buy, say, what now would be a vacation home in Florida, and then over time make that their new residence? I guess, not to say doing it surreptitiously, but if that's really, they plan to use it as a vacation home, and 5-10 years later, they have no mortgage under their house, they can sell that, I guess, pay it off, and now they have the home in Florida free and clear.
Certainly. Another example of what we just ran into too, in terms of how a reverse mortgage can dramatically increase your purchasing power, is we had a fellow who was a widower, was living in Maryland, wanted to move up here to the Boston area to be closer to adult children, arguably more to be closer to his grandchildren than
Let's be honest, the grandkids.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And so he sold his home in Maryland. He had paid it off. He had no mortgage on the home in Maryland. It was about a $250,000 property. There just unfortunately is not much available or anything available in the greater Boston area for $250,000. What the $250,000 did supply, however, was a very substantial down payment. Between that and a reverse mortgage used as a purchase money mortgage, he was able to find a condominium that met his needs, was very close to the family members. It worked out very well.
Very nice. The other thing that, the reason why you and I were first introduced and we talked about recently was some of the unique issues on dealing with trusts and documents and helping families kind of navigate through that process. Talk a little bit about some of the unique experiences you have dealing with it. The average, you walk into a bank, they're just going to process papers. A professional like you who's seen some of these things has some experience to draw on. What are some of the cases of customers that have maybe trust documentation issues or family lineage issues that you can help them with?
Sure. And I'll say this too. What I'm about to say is not unique to our company, our bank, or even me. It's probably just the number of years that I've been doing this and the level of knowledge that you acquire from doing this for a very long time. But we're dealing with a demographic here that is in the, if they're still in their earning years at the very end, hopefully everybody has done a proper estate plan and done all their proper retirement planning, but we know that that's not necessarily true. But especially for those that have, we don't want to inadvertently unwind a properly done estate plan. And what I'm referring to specifically, just to make up an example, is a transaction that we are about to close right now, probably in the next week or two. A woman who had paid off her mortgage, done all the right things, except she's lived far longer than expected. And she is approaching that day where she will run out of her retirement funds, her retirement savings. If she wants to stay in her home and physically she's capable of doing that, she's in very good health, she's going to have to tap into the equity in the home. And so reverse mortgage comes into play. A number of years ago, she had her mortgage paid off, owned the house free and clear, put the property into an irrevocable trust in case she was going to run into any health issues and potentially a Medicaid lien if she were ever to go on Medicaid. And we were able to, the irrevocable trust, and we've done a number of these, the irrevocable trust didn't exactly match FHA's requirements, but we were able to get some minor amendments made to that trust to make it compatible. We literally just got the approval on the trust this past Monday. She's going to be able to keep the property in the IREV trust, keep that Medicaid shield up, and still have access to the funds available.
One of the things I was introduced to you by one of our favorite attorneys, Smith Fitzgerald out of Florida. And I know after talking to you, you work with some of the other leading trust attorneys in the Boston area and some of the other markets you work. Talk about the difference between working with an expert attorney in these areas versus, the attorney that we know and like and trust on other matters, but may not be an expert in this field. What's the difference when you work with really the top-notch people in this field?
Different attorneys have different niches. I'll equate it to the medical profession. And there are different specialties, if you will. And even in the estate arena, not every estate attorney, addresses all the same issues. And depending on a person's financial profile, especially, there will be different expertises required to form a proper estate plan. And the joke that I kind of have after seeing this for a number of years is if you really want to get back at your family members for any reason, die without a proper estate plan, especially without a will, because they will be cursing your name after you are long gone. But kidding aside, it is the message I want to send is that, first of all, it is very easy and inexpensive to set up a basic estate plan, have a will. Even if it has to be probated, just having a simple will in place will do wonders. And depending on your assets and your overall net worth, it can become critically important. So what we've done, certainly in our local area, but now across the country, is finding where those really good experts are, so that we kind of have a go-to estate attorney in every geographic area that we're operating in, and be able to refer those people who don't have that plan in place yet.
Well, look, Chris, I know you're an expert in reverse mortgages. Also tap into a Rolodex of experts in estate planning. You're a real asset to anybody looking for help in those areas. For somebody who's interested in getting more information about a reverse mortgage or help with financing, and in particular with estate issues in Boston or other areas, I have a website here at the Federal Savings Bank with a picture of a good-looking guy. Is that the best way to reach you? Is the webpage? There's a phone number here. What's the best way to reach you?
Yes, probably. I think I can't quite read it because my eyes are so bad, but and that picture was heavily photoshopped, I think. But my cell number.
Good-looking guy there. You got an actor stand in for you or something. I don't know.
The good photographer. My cell number or my email address, either one, and I would be very happy to answer anybody's questions.
Fantastic. So Christopher Downey, the Federal Savings Bank, will put his email and phone number in the description down below. Chris, as always, appreciate time with you. Always feel like I learned something from you. Thanks for taking time to help educate us on reverse mortgages and estate planning issues.
Thanks for the opportunity, Bill.